what is a network? Your network is not the peers that you work with or the personal relationship that you've had over a period of time. um, it is the people that they know and those people who they know. That how big is your network and how are you going to leverage and explore that is something that you really need to work upon and see and strategize. So right now the major drive is towards the digital transformation of all the industries. So a lot of IT related, cloud computing, data and AI related work is going on. You need to do a little bit of your homework while sitting in your country to know that how your project or your experience or your recent innovation is in line with what that person who you want to get in touch with, how are you going to make it beneficial for him? So then you approach your network and you say, hey, by the way, I've worked in this domain, and this may be really relevant for that person. You need to add value in whatever you're presenting. Now, how to land a job there? You can go to a website for NEOM and apply for all the jobs that are there, and you'll probably get all these rejections in an email. That's what you filled it, And the real way of going and penetrating through those entities is to figure out who actually is your sponsor, which consultancy firm is giving their advice to those key stakeholders if you don't have anybody in the company. So, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and also adaptability and problem solving skills. These are the three main things that you should work upon.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Soft Skill channel. And recently I posted a video and a podcast on how to get a technical job in Canada. And today we'll be talking about the same topic, but we'll talk about how to get a technical job in the Middle East, which is another big job market, especially for people who are based in the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on. And also, a lot of times, people in the West want to go back to the Middle East because the tax-free paychecks are always more enticing. So there is a big volume of people who would like to move back once they have come to Canada, United States, or UK, and go back and explore opportunities in that part of the world. So to talk a little bit more about that, I've got with me someone who has been working in the technical industry in the Middle East for almost more than 20 years now. And he also happens to be a very good friend of mine. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Eyhab Burki. Hello, Eyhab. How are you?
Hi, Jamil. Thank you so much for having me on the Soft Skill channel. It's a privilege. You're doing a wonderful job, and hopefully, I'm able to share some great insights on the Middle East networking elements.
Awesome. So, Ihab, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you start? What has been your journey in the Middle East, and what are you doing nowadays?
Right, Jamil. I mean, we both went to the same university. Right after that, I landed a job while the telecom boom in 2004 and 5 with Warid and Telenor coming in. I got hired by one of the consultancy firms called Aircom from UK, and then they had another project in UAE when they were launching Do. So apparently, it was a very smooth transition from Pakistan to the Middle East from me, because my networking was my boss and my peers itself. And from there onwards, then I moved to Qatar 3 years after, and since then I've been working for Nokia for the longest period of my career, with Urido and multiple customers in the Middle East as my main customers. And now I'm working in a totally different domain, which is more focused towards the digital transformation, smart cities, AI, and data. As it's quite a buzzword right now, but we're working pretty much in that domain with the Urido and the ministries here in Qatar.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for sharing that introduction, Ihab. So, Ihab, tell us a little bit about, let's say if I'm a prospective fresh graduate or someone who has got some technical experience in another market, let's say like India or Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, and I'm really looking to get a job in the Middle East. So, what would your advice be for prospective job candidates like that?
Right. So before I start, your network is your net worth. This is something which is very true. As we progressed in our careers, we figure out that most of the jobs are through referrals and the trust that you build over the period of time. But for people who are trying to, the aspirants trying to get into Middle East to do, networking and land a job over here, I think they need to do a little bit of a homework from their side. First and foremost, they need to leverage the cultural awareness. Okay, figure out how work ethics are being followed over here. Then they also need to really focus on the social media aspect of thing, which we're going to touch base later in this conversation as well. They should be ready to travel to attend various industry events, which is very critical to network face to face to see what's going on in the industry, to be able to share your experiences firsthand with the people. So that's very critical. You need to work upon your online presence. That is really key. You are the CEO of your own business. You need to promote yourself and you need to market yourself. So you need to really figure out how you're going to have a very strong online presence. And you really need to work upon your soft skills and cultivate personal relationships over the period of time, be it personal, professional, or secondhand. But before all of this, what is a network? Your network is not the peers that you worked with or the personal relationship that you've had over a period of time. It is the people that they know and those people who they know. That how big is your network and how are you going to leverage and explore that is something that you really need to work upon and see and strategize.
Excellent. Excellent. I think you have made some very great points here, and I want to like go a bit deeper into a few of those. Ihab. First of all, you mentioned cultural awareness at the very beginning, right? So tell us a little bit about that because, I even with my experience, I think that's a very important point, and people tend to ignore it or don't talk enough about it. Because even I have worked in Pakistan, then in Dubai for about 7 years, then in Canada, then I also kind of in and out work in the United States as well. And cultural difference is and awareness is extremely important. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, Jamil, if I really need to pinpoint something which is different in Middle East working culture as opposed to other cultures, say European, North American, they do have their nuances and little differences, but they're pretty much at par on a global scale. Middle East, for that matter, is a little different. Middle East relies heavily on the expat talent, so they don't really have and groom their own, which is happening right now with Saudization and Qatarization and Emiratization. But again, they still really heavily rely on the expat, resource fund and the technical acumen that brings, from these countries like South Asia and so on and so forth. From a cultural standpoint of view, it is not very different from what we experience in Pakistan or the cultural values that we hold. But respect is paramount in this culture. You need to understand that because a lot of people who are leading companies or are at very critical roles or positions, they may just not have come through, a bottoms up climbing the ladder and do not have that experience or technical acumen or, troubleshooting kind of experience. Yet they're at the position because they've been groomed right from the start to be the CEO or the managing director of a certain company, and they've taken a very different route. So if you're able to help them achieve their goals and also train them in such a way that you are not really a trainer, but yet you're giving them some key insights on how to maneuver around certain challenges because of your experience. And that is why they're hiring you, actually, because you have taken that journey and they want you to supplement them with that critical information. So if you understand this, that you are not going to be working towards growing at par with them or growing beyond them, because those positions are being tailored for the nationals in Middle East. Yet you are there to support them to work for a certain objective for that company in the same manner how global industry is working.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I think one advice I would also like to add on, especially for younger professionals who are probably not in the Middle East right now, but they aspire to be, is stay away from stereotypes, because a lot of times we have these cultural stereotypes and people have this kind of ingrained in their head that, oh, certain people are, because they are very rich or because they are very spoiled, they behave in a certain way. But that's not true, because when you actually build personal relationships with people of a different nationality or a different culture, you then start appreciating the fact that certain behaviors or certain stereotypes come because of a certain cultural backdrop or a setting. And it's not that you cannot work with those people, it's just because how you need to learn how to adjust in those work environments. So I think the key here is stay away from stereotypes and always think of this from an open mind. I think that's very important.
Well, this is a very critical point, actually. When I've heard a lot of my friends and peers who've gone to America or Canada, and they've probably taken a bit to actually get into the job market altogether, with a comment saying that how much Canadian experience do you have? And if you really dissect that particular statement, what it tells you is that there is a different way or a different culture of working, different in Pakistan, extremely different in Middle East, where and extremely different than the European and the North American markets. Where you can challenge, you can be very open about your opinions. Whereas in the Middle East, there's a way of communicating on what is right. Okay, you can't just be very blunt and opposing, or maybe there to see certain challenges that the company is facing and be able to recommend those changes. If you're not asked, don't go ahead and be an over smart and try to recommend. This is a different market altogether. So there are cultural differences, and you really need to prep yourself up for that.
Absolutely, absolutely great. And I think that's a very good segue into my next question, Ihab, here, which is we just talked about people who want to come from, let's say, India or Pakistan to the Middle East and what they should be considering. And I think you have made some great points there. There is also quite a large number of professionals, especially in technical roles, who would, do their traditional, I would say, immigration journey, right? Start from India or Pakistan, and then, you would uh, directly go to Canada or United States or UK, get their citizenships and all of that stuff. And a lot of times there is a desire to move to the Middle East, and that is typically, based on my experience, driven by two factors. One is like people who take this journey typically would also may have spent a few years in the Middle East, so they like the feel of a tax-free paycheck and the nice lifestyle in the Middle East and so on. That could be one driver. Another driver could be, of course, like it's a reality, whether you like it or not, that your take home pay is overall higher in the Middle East in general, if you are, of course, comparing a job apples to apples. So there is always going to be a number of people who are interested in coming to the Middle East, even from the West. What would your advice be to someone who is in the UK or Canada or US looking for a job back in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Dubai?
Yeah, so one of the key things about networking is it's not what you know, it's basically who you know. And that is very critical to basically land jobs. I mean, there was a survey that was being done by Harvard Business Review and also with LinkedIn, that 85% of the jobs were actually filled through networking. And even job white, they also did a survey that 75% of the jobs posted were actually completed through referrals. So what does this tell you? That the normal application submission, resume, ATS, passing through that, getting to a job interview without having any references or not knowing who you actually are, it's very, very hard in this day and age. People actually really believe and work towards human interaction that they've had, or somebody they trust, telling them on how this individual has performed in the past 3 years, and I've seen him grow. So these are the shortcomings, these are the positives, and he will be able to help you in these domains. So now coming to the point that how people from UK, Canada, and the South Asian community needs to now penetrate into the market for Middle East. The first thing you need to understand that what is Middle Eastern market currently investing on. It can't be that back in the days when the infrastructure, civil infrastructure, was being built, a lot of civil engineers were migrating into these areas. Now at the same time we see there was a big natural gas and oil boom, so a lot of chemical and petroleum engineers were really needed. Now then there was a banking sector that required a lot of individuals. So there have been phases all throughout. Where does Middle Eastern market currently stands? And that is very important to know. So right now the major drive is towards the digital transformation of all the industries. So a lot of IT related, cloud computing, data and AI related work is going on. Technological advancements as it was going in my previous life with telecom is not as massive as it was, say, 10 years from now. Now the telecom jobs are not as much. So you need to first figure out that, okay, if I'm going to be using my network, is it really going to be beneficial to brush them, or figure it out that if there's any job opening that is coming through? Because it can never be that you have a referral sitting in, say, Qatar or UAE, and you say, hey, by the way, in your network, you know this person, can you arrange a meeting with him? No, it would never work like that. You need to do a little bit of your homework while sitting in your countries to know that how your project or your experience or your recent innovation is in line with what that person who you want to get in touch with, how are you going to make it beneficial for him? So then you approach your network and you say, hey, by the way, I worked in this domain, and this may be really relevant for that person. You need to add value in whatever you're presenting. For a person to make that connection, he needs to also look after himself, because he is your sponsor, and he wouldn't just make you guys meet over something where he's trying to say, hey, I'm interested to come to Middle East and work. All right, so there are quite many people in the world who are interested to come in the Middle East. What value you're bringing through? So you need to approach it in a very strategic manner. So this is very important, where a lot of people lack.
I think that that's a great point, Ihab, especially for the ones coming back from the West. These are not fresh graduates typically. These are people who have got quite a lot of experience. So instead of just starting with the notion that, hey, I want to come back to the Middle East because I want to make more money, is not the right footing to start with. It's basically, okay, what value am I bringing? But I just want to go deeper into one thing you mentioned, Ihab, and I think you gave a very good, let's say, a timeline analysis, right? Because even my father worked in the Middle East for a very long time, and I remember, like, back in the, let's say, the late 60s, early 70s was the age of civil engineers, let's say, right? And then came the age of, as their infrastructures, the highways got built and the basic infrastructure got ready. Then came the age of, let's say, the oil boom, of course, kind of was coupled with it. So chemical engineers and petroleum engineers were always in demand. But then came the age of, okay, now we have built the infrastructure, we have got the highways, we have got oil, we have got the money. So then came the age of service professionals like bankers or
Mm.
traders, and all of that stuff came in, right? But I think now we are living in a, age of, let's say, information. And I think when we recently were talking about on a different subject, you mentioned a very good analogy that back in the 60s and the 70s in the Middle East, they were building like real highways. Now they are building information highways. So tell us a little bit about, like, what is the Middle Eastern government or the companies they're investing in from a technical perspective?
Right. So you see, in Qatar, recently Microsoft and Google has opened up their regions with three availability zones, so which means like full stack of data centers are there in Qatar. Primarily because there's an alignment between the government and these, global giants in the cloud computing space, that there is going to be a huge digital transformation drive that is going to take across all the industries, from transports to environment to logistics to sports to health care sector. So all of them have to evolve new smart solutions to bring it up into the country for the digital transformation sake, or for the for the citizens life, to make that easier, to cut down onto 5 steps to 2 steps. That is what digital transformation is all about. Previously there was a big you know on-prem kind of data center with each and every industry that was going on. And then what they did, that they reviewed that every industry is investing similar kind of capex every year to upgrade their hardware in a certain way, which is not sustainable and it is not beneficial. So, what the governments have now worked on, all Saudi, UAE, and Qatar, to have these cloud giants to come and open up their data center to then invigorate and plant all these digital transformation drives within each and every sector. So that sector is really growing, and that analogy that you were talking about. So just consider, first to if you want to expand a country and you want a country to grow, first thing that you need is a highway, and then those secondary roads, and the tertiary roads, and all those roads, right? Now, all these highways are now those data pipes, or those secondary and tertiary routes penetrating into each and every sector, to then pave way for all those digital transformation smart solutions to evolve. And every country is working towards it. So, we've been hearing about smart cities for a very, very long time. The IoT and the smart city and the edge computing and all these, 5G is going to transform the way we do work in our industries and so on and so forth. Now it's actually happening. It's been a lot of talk, but now the real investments coming in from Saudis in this space, with at least 19 smart cities. Qatar is doing a lot in this aspect. UAE have to do it because they got onto this bandwagon way earlier, especially when the main uh, area where they actually focus on is tourism, and making all business communities to come into Qatar to do in UAE to come and do business. So what they did was that the digital transformation drive started a little earlier there, and they're a little bit more mature than these countries, but they're catching up and they're going to go way ahead. In the next 5 years, things are going to change a lot, because globally, if there are any countries where real investments in this space is happening, it is Qatar, Saudi, which is 10 times bigger than Qatar in terms of investments, in terms of the smart cities and the scale. And then, UAE, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait. So Middle East is extremely hot in this space at this point in time.
That's great, and I think one misconception, at least in the eyes of the people living in the West, is that America or Canada are way more advanced in some of these, let's say, more recent digital transformation and technologies. That's actually not true, and I'll give you like one very simple layman example of this one. Right, for example, the concept of electronic gates at the airports, right? It came to Toronto, I think maybe 5 years ago, and there was like a lot of press and media hype about, oh, now Toronto is going to get these e-gates where you can just scan your passport and go. And I was like, man, that was launched in Dubai, I remember, in 2008. So by no means it's the next generation transformative technology, because actually the Middle East did this way ahead of its time, especially in the UAE. I know like their receptivity to new technology is way more than even if you compare with the rest of the region. And I know like now Saudi is really trying to catch up, which is great because it's a much bigger market. Especially, this is great, good news for the technical professionals in that industry. So I think in a lot of examples that I can give you many other, like simple ordinary examples where I can see that that region has probably adapted to the digital technology even better than the West, where a lot of the technology was probably born, but because the governments probably like over there are much more quick in applying some of these things, you see the more like widespread application of those applications much faster than what you see in the West, which is great. So On that note, and I think you just kind of briefly touched now, Ihab, on Saudi, Qatar, UAE, and the rest of the region like Bahrain, Oman, and so on, and Kuwait. Uh, I know there's a lot of boom going on in Saudi Arabia right now. There's a lot of talk about like MBS changing the outlook of Saudi Arabia. I know the locals there are very happy. They are like more vibrant and positive about the future. So tell us a little bit about what that means for technical people trying to find their next best job opportunity in Saudi.
Yeah. So, see, where the investment lies means there's a lot of job opportunities. There's a lot of scope that is going to go about building those smart cities. So, smart cities is predominantly about IoT sensors, the connectivity domain, the smart solutions, the mobile applications, the cloud computing, the data storage, data and AI, doing the analytics around it. Obviously, it requires the underlying software development programming skills. So this is extremely hot at this point in time. So anybody who has these skills, not at a 2 to 3 years level, all the way till say 25 to 30 years of experience, they're all very much potential candidates for these entities. Now, how to land a job there? You can go to a website for Neom and apply for all the jobs that are there, and you'll probably get all these rejections in an email that's already filled it. And the real way of going and penetrating through those entities is to figure out who actually is your sponsor, which
Mm.
consultancy firm is giving their advice to those key stakeholders if you don't have anybody at the company. From there onwards, you need to basically convince those network which is close to you that how you are beneficial in those areas and how are you relevant and add value to those entities. You need to basically start planting the seed from there. And during discussions, and because they've got the reach to them, cold calls really don't work too well unless you have these great opportunities. Like, by the way, Web Summit is happening by the end of this month in Doha, which is a big event. There is Leap that is happening from 4 till 7 of March, a extremely important and very big event, especially for networking. Anybody who is looking and waiting to take actions after this podcast, directly go and travel to these events. They're going to be fantastic and fabulous for you to basically network with the industrial leaders, and to actually network with the right people if you're really interested. I mean, you can't just use LinkedIn and emails and cold calls and have somebody to make you meet someone. If you really are interested, you really need to invest, as you invest in yourself on your studies while you're working, learning, and career development. And if you're really serious to move into Middle East, these are the great networking events that you can actually leverage at this point in time.
Excellent. I think those are some great resources and tips you have. Thanks for sharing that. And as we come towards the end of our podcast, and because this is kind of the main um, subject of my channel, and I really try to promote awareness around human skills, soft skills, because people don't talk about it anywhere near enough where it should be. Because there's a lot of focus, and I know this podcast is about technical jobs, but we'll not go into the details of hard skills there. But in any industry, whether you are doing a technical job or a non-technical job, the importance of human skills is very, very important. In your opinion, in with your 20 years of experience, especially with the Middle Eastern context, what are the top three soft skills that an individual must have?
I'm going to be very brief and to the point, Jamil. And it's very crystal clear for me, for having worked in the Middle Eastern market and obviously interacted with global players all around. So, communication skills, emotional intelligence, and also adaptability and problem solving skill set. These are the three main things that you should work upon to be able to communicate effectively, about what you really believe in, and to be able to pass on that message in a very crisp, short manner, to be able to have the ability to do the storytelling, to get the idea through to the people. that is a big art that people learn over years. So you really need to work upon those as you go and get your engineering degree or do your masters in your MBA. You're learning a certain skill set from an academic perspective, but from a soft skills perspective, this is equally important, which is totally disregarded, and that's where your channel really adds a lot of value. Emotional intelligence, this is about self awareness, who you are, what your capabilities are, and also situational awareness. What is the situation asking you to do at this point in time? These are lacking big time. I can really tell you. A lot of time your emotion takes over on what you really believe in, and you communicate it in a manner where it just you know uh, there are so many egos that you need to manage at the same time for your belief to come across in the right manner, and that is an art. And a lot of salespeople have actually learned this over a period of time. That listening is more important than just talking. So emotional intelligence is extremely important, and then you need to be able to adapt. The industry is changing, the skill set is changing. With AI, a lot of new things are coming in, which might just eat up onto the majority of the work that you've been doing in your job previously. That is something that you should be able to do and adopt. Get into those certifications, try learning those courses, maybe invest in yourself to be future proof, to be able to be relevant to the market. And then the key and the most important thing, you see, problem solving. You need to be able to solve problems for people. It could be technical, it could be business, it could be financial. Everybody has a problem. And if you're able to do something and have that mindset, uh, to not be at peace, to be honest, up until you have gone over the line and prove to the person that, here it is, then that is the only way you'll be able to prove your worth.
Perfect, perfect. And what I love about that answer, Ihab, is that I have made videos on a lot of those topics already, which the viewers can find, and I'll be putting links as you have talked through those in this video as well. So we have talked a lot about problem solving. I have a full series of videos about problem solving and critical thinking, which is equally important. It's almost like synonymous to problem solving. We have talked about lifelong learning on this channel, which
Yeah.
I think is very, very important, because even if I link it to the main content we have covered with you in this podcast, we just give the examples of in the 60s and the 70s in the Middle East, they were building highways. Now they are building these digital pipes, right?
Mm.
Difference in the skill set is that once, for example, you become a civil engineer, like how you build a road doesn't change, but
Yeah.
how you build those digital pipes will keep
Mm.
changing, because there is so much innovation happening
Yes.
today. We are talking about 5G and all the jargon that you spoke about.
Yeah.
I can almost like sign this in my blood that 5 years from now you'll be talking about this plus another like more innovative set of technology. So how you build those digital pipes will keep on changing. It's very different than building a road. So I think that how you can relate this to your, let's say, career journey is that back in the 60s and the 70s, one person would start a job with a company, work for that company for their entire careers, and then retire. Now it's very, very challenging to do that, although it's a very safe path, but that those paths are diminishing. And therefore, for us as professionals, it's important that that whole concept of lifelong learning and constantly learning. And I think the good news is that there is so many more resources. Of course, there were always books, but now there are these podcasts. There's a lot of plethora of information available online, which people can consume, because in order to grow. So I think that that's great. So no, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast again, Ihab. I think it was a great discussion. I think your tips will be very valuable for all the audience who are watching this and aspiring to be a part of the Middle East workforce at some point in time in the technical domain. So thanks a lot for your time, and yeah, wish you good luck with all your future efforts.
Thank you, Jamil. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast, and I hope some of the information that you've shared is going to be of value to your esteemed subscribers, which are not only limited to North American market. I can clearly tell you a lot of people from the Middle East, especially in Qatar, actually follow your work. and you're doing a brilliant work in preparing some really meaningful contents for the soft skills. And kudos to you. Thank you so much.